They said a black woman couldn't be a doctor, until she saved the patient's life. The emergency room at St. Catherine's Hospital was chaos. Sirens wailed outside as another ambulance pulled up. Inside, doctors in white coats rushed between beds, their faces tense with the weight of life and death decisions. But in the corner, near the supply closet, stood a woman who wasn't supposed to be there. At least, that's what everyone believed. Her name was Dr. Maya Johnson, and for 3 months, she had endured whispers, doubts, and outright hostility from colleagues who couldn't see past the color of her skin. They questioned her credentials, dismissed her opinions, and treated her like she was playing dress-up in Scrubs. Little did they know, this woman they underestimated was about to face the most critical moment of her career. A moment that would silence every doubter in that hospital forever. But what happened next, nobody expected. Dr. Maya Johnson had dreamed of becoming a doctor since she was 7 years old, watching her grandmother struggle with diabetes in their small apartment in Detroit. She had clawed her way through medical school on scholarships, working double shifts at a diner to pay for textbooks that cost more than her monthly rent. At 32, she was finally a resident at one of the most prestigious hospitals in Chicago. She should have been celebrating. Instead, she was fighting a battle she never expected. "Are you sure you're supposed to be here?" That was the first question Dr. Richard Hartwell asked when he saw Maya on her first day. Dr. Hartwell was the chief resident, tall, blonde, and blessed with the kind of confidence that comes from never having to prove you belong somewhere. "I'm Dr. Johnson," Maya had replied, extending her hand. "I'm starting my residency in emergency medicine." Hartwell's eyes narrowed as he looked her up and down. He didn't shake her hand. "Interesting," he said, his voice dripping with condescension. "I wasn't aware they were lowering standards." Maya felt her stomach drop, but she kept her face neutral. She had prepared for this. Her mentors had warned her. But experiencing it firsthand was different than imagining it. Dr. Hartwell wasn't just any resident. He was the son of the hospital's board chairman, Dr. Marcus Hartwell Sr. He had graduated from Harvard Medical School, just like his father and grandfather before him. Medicine was in his blood, or so he believed. What he didn't know was that Maya had graduated summa cum laude from Johns Hopkins. That she had published research papers that were already changing emergency medicine protocols. That she had a photographic memory and could diagnose conditions that stumped doctors with decades of experience. All he saw was what he wanted to see. The first week was brutal. Maya was assigned the most mundane tasks, taking vitals, updating charts, fetching coffee for the attending physicians. When she tried to offer medical opinions, she was shut down. "Let's leave the diagnosing to the real doctors," Dr. Hartwell said one Tuesday morning, loud enough for the entire nursing staff to hear. Maya bit her tongue and continued working. But inside, she was keeping score. When Mrs. Patterson came in complaining of chest pain, Maya immediately suspected it wasn't a heart attack based on her symptoms. The pain was too specific, too localized. But when she tried to suggest gastroesophageal reflux disease, Dr. Hartwell cut her off. "We don't need your guesses, Johnson. Order an EKG and cardiac enzymes." 3 hours and $2,000 in unnecessary tests later, they confirmed Maya's original suspicion. GERD. Heartburn. Dr. Hartwell never acknowledged the mistake. The pattern continued for weeks. Maya would make correct diagnoses that were ignored, only to be proven right hours later. She saved the hospital thousands in unnecessary procedures, but received no credit. Instead, she faced increasing hostility. "I don't know how you got into this program," Hartwell said during one particularly difficult shift, "but affirmative action can only take you so far." Maya's hands trembled as she updated a patient chart. She had worked twice as hard as everyone else her entire life, and still, it wasn't enough. But she wasn't ready to give up. She couldn't give up. Her grandmother's voice echoed in her mind, "Baby, they're going to try to break you. But remember, diamonds are made under pressure." What Maya didn't know was that her biggest test was still coming. It was a Thursday night in November when everything began to shift. Maya was 3 months into her residency, and the whispers had only gotten worse. Some of the nurses had started to support her quietly, impressed by her knowledge and compassion with patients. But the doctors, led by Hartwell, remained united in their skepticism. "I heard she failed her boards twice," Hartwell told a group of interns over lunch. It was a complete lie, but Maya could see them believing it. That evening, Maya was reviewing patient files when Dr. Elizabeth Chen, one of the few attending physicians who treated her fairly, approached her. "Maya, I need to tell you something," Dr. Chen said quietly. "Dr. Hartwell has been documenting incidents. Building a case to have you removed from the program." Maya's blood ran cold. "What kind of incidents?" "Missed diagnoses, poor patient interaction, inadequate medical knowledge. All fabricated, but he's been creating a paper trail for weeks." Maya stared at the patient files in front of her, the words blurring together. 3 months of humiliation, and now this. "There's something else," Dr. Chen continued. "His father is reviewing your case next week. If enough complaints pile up." She didn't need to finish the sentence. Maya understood. As Dr. Chen walked away, Maya sat alone in the break room, wondering if she should just quit. Save herself the embarrassment of being fired. But then she remembered something her medical school professor had told her: the best doctors aren't the ones who never face challenges. They're the ones who rise to meet them when lives are on the line. What no one realized at that moment was that Maya was about to get her chance to prove exactly that. Friday night, 11:47 p.m. The emergency room was unusually quiet when the ambulance sirens pierced the silence. "Multi-vehicle accident on I-94, the paramedics shouted as they wheeled in the first victim. Male, mid-40s, unconscious, possible internal bleeding." Maya looked up from her charts as they brought in the patient. Her breath caught in her throat. It was Dr. Marcus Hartwell Sr., Richard's father, the chairman of the hospital board, the man who held her career in his hands. Dr. Hartwell Jr. rushed over, his face pale with panic. "Dad! Dad, can you hear me?" The attending physician, Dr. Martinez, began the initial assessment. "Possible abdominal trauma, blood pressure dropping fast. Let's get him to trauma bay 2. Maya stayed back, knowing her place in the hierarchy. She watched as the team worked, her mind automatically processing the symptoms she could observe from a distance. Something wasn't right. Dr. Hartwell Jr. was issuing orders, his medical training taking over despite his emotional state. "Start 2 large bore IVs, type and cross for 6 units, and get me a CT of his abdomen." But Maya noticed something the others had missed. The patient's eyes were showing signs of anisocoria, one pupil larger than the other. His left arm had a subtle tremor that suggested neurological involvement. This wasn't just abdominal trauma. Maya stepped closer, her heart pounding. She knew she should stay quiet, keep her head down. Speaking up could be career suicide. But a man's life was on the line. "Dr. Martinez," she called out, her voice steady despite the chaos. "I think we need a head CT first." Dr. Hartwell Jr. spun around, his face contorted with rage. "What did you just say?" "His pupils are unequal, and there's neurological involvement in his left extremities. I believe he has a traumatic brain injury that's being masked by the abdominal symptoms." "You don't know what you're talking about." Hartwell screamed. "This is my father. Stay away from him." But Dr. Martinez had paused. He looked at the patient again, checking the pupils Maya had mentioned. "She's right," he said quietly. "Get me a head CT, stat." 15 minutes later, the results confirmed Maya's diagnosis. Severe traumatic brain injury with increasing intracranial pressure. The abdominal bleeding was minor compared to the life-threatening swelling in his brain. Dr. Hartwell Sr. was rushed to emergency surgery. The neurosurgeon later confirmed that Maya's quick thinking had saved his life. Another 10 minutes focusing on the wrong diagnosis, and he would have died. The silence in the trauma bay was deafening. Dr. Hartwell Jr. stood frozen, staring at Maya as if seeing her for the first time. 3 days later, Dr. Marcus Hartwell Sr. woke up in the ICU. The first person he asked to see wasn't his son or his wife. It was Maya. "Dr. Johnson," he said, his voice weak but clear. "I understand you saved my life." Maya stood beside his bed, still unsure of what to say. "I was just doing my job, sir." The older man studied her face. "Richard told me what happened. What you spotted that everyone else missed." He paused, taking a shaky breath. "He also told me about other things. How you've been treated here." Maya remained silent. 35 years I've been in medicine," Dr. Hartwell Sr. continued. "And I've learned that the best doctors aren't the ones with the best pedigree or the most confidence. They're the ones who see what others miss. Who care more about saving lives than protecting egos." That afternoon, Dr. Hartwell Jr. appeared at Maya's locker as she was changing after her shift. "Dr. Johnson," he said quietly. Maya turned, bracing herself for another confrontation. Instead, she saw something she had never seen before in his eyes: shame. "I owe you an apology," he said. "Actually, I owe you a lot more than that. You saved my father's life, and I—" He struggled with the words. "I almost cost him his life because of my prejudice." Maya looked at him for a long moment. "Your apology is appreciated, Dr. Hartwell. But it's not just about me. It's about every person who looks like me, who will come after me. We're not here because of lowered standards or affirmative action. We're here because we earned it, just like you." Dr. Hartwell Jr. nodded, his face flushed with embarrassment. "I know that now. And I'll make sure others know it too." 6 months later, Maya was awarded the hospital's Outstanding Resident Award. Dr. Hartwell Sr. personally presented it to her, calling her one of the finest physicians I've ever had the privilege to work with. But the real victory wasn't the award or the recognition. It was the young black medical student who approached Maya after the ceremony. "Dr. Johnson," the student said, her eyes bright with hope, "I start my residency here next month. Thank you for showing me it's possible." Maya smiled, remembering her grandmother's words about diamonds and pressure. "Remember," she told the young woman, "they might question your credentials, your intelligence, your right to be here. But they can never question your ability to save lives. And in the end, that's all that matters." As Maya walked out of the hospital that night, she realized something profound. She hadn't just saved Dr. Hartwell Sr.'s life that night in the trauma bay. She had saved her own career, her dreams, and paved the way for countless others who would follow. Sometimes the greatest victories come not from proving others wrong, but from proving yourself right when it matters most. And sometimes, the person who needs saving isn't the patient on the gurney, it's the doctor brave enough to speak up when everyone else stays silent. The next time someone tells you that you don't belong somewhere, remember Dr. Maya Johnson. Remember that competence speaks louder than prejudice, that knowledge trumps assumptions, and that one moment of courage can change everything. Because in the end, medicine isn't about the color of your skin or the prestige of your family name. It's about saving lives.